I felt and saw this presence of something like a ghost.
As I was reaching for my keys, something growled at me coming out of the basement.
It was bad energy. I was sort of feeling like I was letting Satan out of hell.
I saw out of the corner of my eye what I thought was the girl falling off the roof.
I couldn't think. It was so loud and I was so terrified that I just froze.
I'm not calling for that. I'm calling because I'm freaking out here.
I felt this presence trying to push itself down on top of me very violently.
It would not go away. It was freaking me out. I look at my arm and it's got a scratch on it.
Let's do it.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Ghosts of Greystone. And we are excited to be here. We're excited that you're joining us. And my name is Clete.
And I'm Chris.
And we are the Keith brothers, those Keith brothers. And we are thrilled to talk about Greystone, which is one of my passions. And I was a ranger and worked logistics and events for 22 years. And Chris, you were there for...
I was there 18 years.
Okay.
So what we should probably do is give a history of the mansion. It won't be that long because I know you want to get into the ghosts, and we will. Trust me.
I do.
But give a history of the mansion so they know where it's all coming from.
Okay. That'll set up why possibly it is the way it is. In the late 1800s, Edward Lawrence Doheny he was from Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, and he came to L.A. looking for gold, and he never found gold. He ended up seeing some guy with a cart, like a wagon, pulling some stuff down the street, and he went up to this guy and said, "What do you got in there?" And the guy said it looked like black rock, big black rock. And he said, "What is that?" And the guy said, "Well, it's Brea, like La Brea tar pits out here in L.A." And he said, "It's Brea, and what it is it's oil that's seeped through the ground and ends up hardening." And he says, "What do you do with that?" And he goes, "I sell it for fuel." And that gave him the idea of, so maybe that's what I'll do out here. So he and a friend of his, Charles Canfield, who came out, they decided they would buy a small little plot of land at Wilshire and Alvarado, which is in downtown LA here. And they bought this. It was a really small little plot of land, and they decided with a pick and an axe, they were going to go down and find oil. So they started in, and they got down 150 feet. That's 15 stories down with a pick and an axe.
Just can't believe it.
It really is incredible. But it gets a lot crazier than that. They ended up going and getting a eucalyptus tree, the straightest eucalyptus tree they could find. And once they got that, then they carved at the very end of it like a drill bit kind of carving at the end, lowered it down, and with ropes. And I'm guessing, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm guessing like mules or donkeys, whatever, and did circles and circles and circles, and in essence drilled down in the hole. They went down 450 feet. Okay. That's 45 stories. 450 feet. They went down.
You're sure of that?
Yes.
It's impossible.
No, I know. It sounds really impossible. But they went down 450 feet and they hit oil.
Wow.
And then they started bringing up, I think it was like 7 to 9 barrels a day, and then more and more. And they ended up having, with that money, had derricks all throughout LA, Signal Hill, everywhere. They had derricks all over the place. And once they made enough money, they went down to Tampico, Mexico.
Right.
And really, took advantage of the Mexican people down there, because they saw, somebody came to them and said, "You should see the oil. It's coming out of the ground out here." So he went down there and he looked at the land and bought the land from the Mexicans and made a killing. And eventually he hit a 600-foot geyser. Jeez. That's 60 stories high. It took 2 weeks to cap. Once he capped it, he became a billionaire, and it was the Rockefellers and the Doheny's. And honestly, at that time, the Doheny's were producing more oil than the Rockefellers from this. And so with that ton of money, he came back. He bought land. He was living down by USC at a beautiful location, SC. Next door to him was his son Ned and his wife and kids, and he ended up buying about 429 acres
Right.
in that area, which ended up being Beverly Hills, which eventually he sold a lot of it off to Paul Truesdale, which became Truesdale Estates for those of you who live out here. And with that acreage, he gave his son Ned, as a wedding gift, 12 and a half acres, basically 12.58 acres. With that, Ned was able to start his mansion and the land that would eventually be known as Greystone Park or Greystone Mansion, but then became
The 429 acres, was that called Doheny Ranch?
It was called the Doheny Ranch.
Okay.
Yeah. And so in March 15th, 1926, he received that land from his father. And almost a year later, February 15th, 1927, they started construction on the home. And I'll tell you about the home because it's pretty amazing. It's basically, it was built by, the architect was Frank Kaufman, who was very well known at that time, one of the best out here in LA. And he did the LA Times building downtown. He did the Hollywood Palladium and the Hoover Dam. I mean, he was a cement guy, if you kind of pick up the message there. Poured a lot of cement. So the house itself is poured cement. And it's poured cement with rebar. And the outside...
Is the roof cement too?
No, the roof is Welsh slate, really thick Welsh slate.
Okay.
The outside is bordered by Indiana limestone. And those of us who are in the paranormal community know that limestone is a conductor of energy. And like the Stanley Hotel, that's where Stephen King wrote The Shining, that's built on a huge plot of limestone. Wow. So,
what was the size of the home?
Well, it ended up being 46,000 square feet, 55 rooms, 67 altogether, meaning walk-in closets and everything.
Wow.
And so that was started on March 15th, 1927, and by September 24th, 1928, think about that. How fast, this is a huge mansion. By September of the next year, Ned, his wife Lucy, daughter Lucy, son Larry, he was Edward Jr., Larry, and let me see how many, Larry and William and Patrick and Timothy. There you go. Timothy was youngest. They were able to move into the house. So they moved in on September 24th, 1928, and right around 4 months later, February 16th, 1929, Ned and his secretary, Hugh Plunkett, were lying dead in the mansion. And we're going to get into all that. You'll hear everything.
Now, on the south end of the property, what did they have?
Well, yeah, remember, so you have the mansion. The mansion was built for $1.2 million. The whole property ended up being $3.1 million. Remember, this is back when a penny meant something, and there was the Depression was coming on. So this was incredible. Right now, the property, I think, they say for 2023, the property would be worth $50 million.
$53 million, it says.
Is that what it is?
It's got to be way more than that.
Way more than that. No. So it's a lot more. So at the south end of the property, so you have the mansion, but there were waterfalls, there were parks, like a park type thing up top, a 3/4 scale dollhouse for their daughter Lucy, who was very spoiled and got whatever she wanted. And one of the things was a 3/4 scale dollhouse.
Crazy.
The top of the property. Bottom of the property was car garages where they had, like, I think it was for 8 or 10 cars, huge cars they had back then. They also had horse stables, and they had a huge, which is still, that the structure is still there, which is a greenhouse.
Right.
And that's still there, and they're thinking about maybe renovating it. Who knows?
Wow.
And that's where the gardeners lived down there above the car garage. And it was the place to be. very all the whoever it was. It became known as the Hearst Castle of Southern California. So that's how amazing it was.
And you've got a couple notes here. It says two maids triangle.
Oh, well, okay. So here's the deal. Let's get into the...
Oh, but first, before we do...
There's more.
At Greystone, I wanted to ask you what the restrooms and stuff like that, what were the most asked questions? I mean, I'm just always curious about that.
Okay. So there is a firehouse that's right outside. We call it the East Court. It's right outside the inner courtyard. There's a firehouse. There back then in those days, remember 429 acres, they had to have their own fire department. The fire department ended up being a horse and a big cylinder with water, right? So that's what they go and put out the fires. Up above our offices my office was up above there for the last couple of years I was there, and down below are public restrooms. So, but when I worked there, and I was walking around either in a uniform or just walking around meeting people, there were two questions that they asked me originally. The two questions were, is this place haunted? And where are the restrooms? Those were really the main two questions that were asked of me. And when people say that they don't, they talk about the hauntings and don't talk about the hauntings, because I was told that at the beginning when I started working there, let's not talk about that. They had some people. Patrick was still alive. One of the family members was still alive, and Lucy actually was still alive as well. So they didn't want to talk about that. But everybody knew about it because they would come up and ask me. Everybody knows about it now.
Right.
They still come up and ask, hey, tell me about this house. So it's not a secret. It's well known, and it's the real deal. And after being there 22 years...
Yeah, you were going to retire. So
yeah. So I was. COVID came along. It was time to leave, and I just thought, what am I going to do after I get out of there? I've been a writer all my life as well, and I actually went to bed and prayed one night and said, let me know what I'm supposed to do, because I don't know what I'm going to do when I get out of here. So I woke up. Literally woke up at 3:00, which is dead time.
Right.
Woke up at 3:00, and I didn't hear a voice, but what was in my head was, write a book about your tour. I'd never written a book. I'd written plays and films and things, but never wrote a book. And it was, write a book about your tour. And I laid there and went, write a book about my tour? Well, my tour was ghost tours. I mean, I would do that. I'd talk because I was really fascinated by it all. And got up and met Chris for coffee one morning before we went to work in Beverly Hills. And I said, hey, I came up with this idea. And he said, go for it. It's a great idea. So that's how this came to be. And then it became a process of, well, I'll write down what I know. Then I'll talk, Steve Clark, who's a ranger there, good friend of mine. I'll talk to him about what he's gone through.
Every time you talk to somebody, they had two or three others. Well, you think my story's good. You should talk to so-and-so.
Yeah.
And it just kept going and going and going until...
It was 86 different people with... And there's one person had 24 stories because they worked there quite some time. I think Steve Clark, Ranger Steve, had 18 stories. Yeah. And some people had one story, but the story was off the charts crazy. So... they kept turning me on different people, and it was fantastic. And then it took 3 years to write this book, and we did it, and
released it at a perfect time, right when COVID started.
Well, you do what you do.
Yeah,
you do what you can.
We had that huge book opening, right?
Yeah,
that book launch.
Yeah, big launch,
which was in the parking lot with you and I.
Yeah, it was just us.
Yeah, but anyway,
regardless, the main thing for us was to tell the truth about this location. A lot of people don't want to talk about it. The city's loosened up quite a bit. There's some great people. I met some great people there working, and they're very excited about the book and all that stuff. And I'm not going to just sit and promote the book. I want to talk about the stories.
Let's get into the mansion.
Let's talk about you want to go inside?
Let's do the grand entry. Let's start with
Okay.
Porte-cochere, let's go in.
Okay. So when you come in, you go up this long driveway and you come up to the West Court and you go into the porte-cochere. And the porte-cochere basically is an overhang that allows people to drive through and get out to enter the house. It goes around a circle in the courtyard. And back in those days, if you're going to be there just a short amount of time, they'd park your car in a garage that's right there, right off the porte-cochere. If you were friends, you're going to hang in for a while, then the valet would take the car and drive it and probably park it down by the car garages down below. So you would walk up to the front to the porte-cochere, and it's really beautiful. It's marble floor, right? Flooring. The entry area. With beautiful posts, and the front door has wrought iron design with glass behind it. It's just, the whole place was done beautifully. So
I think it was almost done 100 years ago. It's mind-boggling. 90, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So it's 4 years, it'll be 100 years. Jeez. So, I mean, that's pretty crazy. So, but it's beautifully done. A lot of things happen. AFI was there from 69 to 82. And they kind of tore the place up because it wasn't a historic site at that time. But now you can go and, just so you know, you can go and visit it if you'd like. It's a park. It is a public park. And some of the people we're going to be talking about through this podcast are still working there. Probably don't want me to say that, but they're still working there. Look them up. Don't tell them I sent you, but look them up.
All right, let's talk about Mr. Chan.
I'm sorry. Okay, so with the first...
Rocking up.
Yeah. The first story is going to be about Ranger Chan, who is a very good friend of mine who is still there. And Ranger Chan was locking up one night because they had done a play. They used to do a play in there. They're not doing it, I don't think, anymore. So it was a play about, it was called The Manor. It was a play about the family. And so once they finished and everybody was done, everybody was out of the house, Chan was going to go up and lock up from the inside, put on the alarm, and go up to the door. And that's what he attempted to do. And here's what happened to Ranger Chan.
Friday night, after the Manor play, and it was after I got all the guests out, followed by all the cast, the stage manager, I believe, Don at the time, he said, "Good night, Chan." Everyone's out. So normally I went back to do my routine, check the windows, check the doors, make sure it's secure, take out the trash, make sure one last round that nobody's is in the mansion. Come back up to the step. The last two lights that I live on is these two sconces, so I can kind of see where the alarm panel is, so I can disarm it. I walked over to the alarm panel. I disarm it. Went over here to the switch. The switch is by the door. I hit that one. It's the third one to get the sconces out. Walk over here to the door. Normally, it's always a routine for me. Simple, just a twist, turn to the left, and then off and go. But that night was different. A twist to the left, the door wouldn't open. With all my force, turn and push it again, couldn't get the door to budge. At the moment, to my left side, my ear, from my top of my head on left side, the ear, it felt like someone has run their finger from top on my left side top, ran the fingers like slightly down to my ear, and then lean off my shoulder off. At that moment, I just freaked out. The door suddenly opens up, and I was allowed to exit. I stepped out, the door was closing, and I grabbed my flashlight, turned it on, and shine it through the door to see if, finally, to look through if I locked somebody in, or I have missed someone, that say, "Hey, you locked me in." I got myself to calm down and cool off. Unlock the door, open a jar, stick my flashlight into it first, shine towards the stairwells. No physical being there. I realized, the alarm, I have to disarm it before it rings.
Right.
Got myself together again, slide in, but slide towards the right, I'm facing the stairwell now. Just looking with my flashlight on, shining everywhere. Disarm the mansion, the alarm panel, now is going into standby mode before I could arm it again. So that 5 seconds I waited, with my flashlight, I scanned the second floor stairs, down on the bottom. Never made any communication. I was totally silent. I just looked around. Now, trying to figure what touched me, what had happened, So the alarm panel say, okay, now it's ready to be armed again. It's back on standby. I arm the mansion, still facing the stairwells. I slide back over to the light, to the door. Now my back is facing the door with my left hand. Reach behind my back, grab the knob on the door, open it, walked out.
And closed.
And close it.
And you never saw anything?
Never seen anything, yes. I never heard a voice. I never saw anything. I never even make any type of communication. Hi. Who are you? Just totally silent for that 15 seconds. I was like standing by this armed the mansion and slide back and walked off.
So
that's nuts.
Isn't that crazy? So what you're going to be hearing throughout this podcast is my actual interviews with the people that had these crazy paranormal experiences. You're going to hear the Rangers' radios going off. Maybe my phone, somebody's trying to get a hold of me. It's the
airplanes. These are the interviews we did.
Yeah.
And transcribed them.
Yeah.
For the book.
Yeah.
So,
but here's the thing about that story, and what I love about it is that he can't get the door open.
Right.
He's used to, like he says, every time I go, I turn it left, I walk out. He tries to turn left, He's stuck. He feels a hand on his head. And once he starts freaking out, then the door opens.
Yeah.
Then allowed him to leave. That's happened in several stories, by the way.
But he ran out, right? I mean, he was done.
Yeah.
He wasn't coming.
And again, when I talk to these people, when you take, I purposely brought Chan back to the location, which I did to a lot of people that we interviewed. I would bring them back to the location. He's
an awful person.
I am not, well, I am. But I brought most of them that I could back to the location where it scared the hell out of them. And you would see that and you would feel it in the interview when they're telling me. So, and by the way, Chan kind of has the gift. He can feel things. And that's another thing. The gift is the abilities, be able to feel, sense, hear, smell. The amount of people that have worked for Greystone, that have been rangers, that have had the gift is unbelievable. And I don't know if they're drawn to the place. Ranger Juan certainly was, and that will tell you his story. But I mean, Steve Clark, all these people have these gifts, Luz Rodriguez, and they're able to sense all this stuff. So once you have, this is my opinion, probably not yours.
Go ahead.
He's a skeptic. My opinion is when you have that ability, you have an aura, you have a sense about you that the spirits on the other side can see. And they go, I can connect with that person. So a lot of the times, I believe what's happening is they're trying to connect to you. Maybe not scare you. Some definitely were trying to scare you. But a lot of the times, like touching his hair on the top of his head, going down his shoulder, that's horrifying because there's nobody there. But that's not, they're not trying to go, they're not trying to just really freak you out, although it does freak you out. So
that's your opinion.
That is my opinion.
Yes.
Do you feel differently?
No, I just think, I don't know. I mean, I feel there are there are beings and spirits and energies. And I know Chan from being up there for 18 years, and he's a straight shooter and doesn't want it to happen to him. So I do believe him, but it's just hard for me to clock that it's...
And if it hasn't
they're doing this because, here comes somebody in the house. And
Right. But if it hasn't happened to you, then you don't have a frame of reference, and I totally get that.
Yeah.
I totally understand. I actually had something happen to me
that'll be another chapter.
I don't want to talk about it, but
let's talk about Chan's story dovetailing into.
Oh yeah, okay. So Chan goes through that, and horrifies him. So I'm on the property one day, and I used to, at the end of the day, park up top, walk up top, get my car to leave from the top parking lot. And I went up there one day, and I saw this man and his wife, a son like 10 and a daughter about 12 or so, standing at the kiosk that's at the top parking lot. And they're reading all the information that's there about Greystone and everything. And I just happened to walk by and said, "How you doing?" And they're from Australia. He goes, "Oh, I'm great. Everything's good. Just saw this thing." And I was just,
you're Australian now?
That's as good as I can do.
Okay.
And I was just looking at this, and I was just wondering, There Will Be Blood was, shot here. And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "That's, we're going on our way to London, and that's part of our, bucket list was to come by here." And I said, "Oh, really?" I said, "Do you want to see the bowling alley?" Oh my God! They were just so excited. It was so beautiful.
That was really nice that you did that for them.
Well, I mean,
made their trip, I'm sure.
I usually look for people who aren't expecting it, they're not staying by front door. Is there any way I can get in? No, it was always people, and hopefully from out of town, because they've come a long way, and it was just really cool. So I said, "Come on, let's go in." He goes, "Oh my!" He couldn't believe it. "You're kidding me. Let's do." So they go in. I bring him into the bowling.
And by the way, tell them that people aren't allowed to go inside the mansion. You just can't walk inside. It's closed up. They have tours.
Yeah.
January through April.
Right.
But nobody is allowed to just walk in.
Limited tours. So the only way you can get in the mansion usually is through an event that's there, or possibly a wedding. You can do a walkthrough, they call it. But that's it. So I would, just take families in or people in or whatever. So I took this family in, showed them the bowling alley, and they were just so happy, so thrilled. And then by the end of the little tour, he goes, "My God, this has been so fantastic." I said, "We're not done." "What do you mean? We're not done. We're not done. Let's keep going." "What?" I gave them a 2-hour tour.
Oh, for heaven's
sakes. We started at the porte-cochere, into the grand entry, down into the grand hall. When I did through the whole thing, it was really great. Ended up back around at the grand entry at the front door. And so when I got to the front door, I said, and I do this just because I enjoy doing it, I acted out Chan's story. People are gone. He puts on the alarm. He goes over to get out. He can't get out. He cannot get out. And he starts to panic. And he's standing there, and he feels this hand. Now, I'm acting all this out for this family who's standing right there. He feels this hand go down his neck and on his ear. And I said, and then he just panics and he pushes the door, but he gets outside. He's looking like, "Oh my God." So I said, and so he was just freaked out and all that stuff. And I said, and I wrapped it up and said, "Well, that's pretty much it for the tour." And he was like, "My God, I can't think." The girl was out. She was gone. The little kid was like, "Okay." And he walked out, the boy. The mom and dad came out, shook their hands, said, "Thanks, thank you." "Okay, no problem." And they left. I get ready. It's the end of my day now. I get ready. I start to go up to the top parking lot, and there's the mother. And she's talking to another ranger. I don't know. I don't remember who it was. And I said, "I thought I told you to get out of here," just joking with her. And she goes, "I was just telling him that my daughter was touched on your tour."
They didn't tell you?
No. And I said, and this is a theme. You'll find out that I tell people before I go in, and I'll tell you what it is at some point. I give them a whole speech, and you got to tell me if something happens so I can gauge whether.
And how many times has that happened where you've taken people in there and you've said, "Please tell me," and they don't tell you?
Every time.
Every time.
Every time. What is that?
It's ridiculous.
I don't know.
Continue.
So anyway, she said, "My daughter was touched on tour." And I said, "Is she okay?" She goes, "She's pretty shook up." And I said, "Where is she?" And don't use my name. But I said, "Where is she?" She's top parking lot. I went up there and I saw her and I said, Are you okay?" She goes, "Oh my God, I never believed in this stuff. I never believed it. My mom's the one who wanted to do this. I never believed it." I said, "Well,
was she scared? Was she scared?
She was scared. She was shook up."
Okay.
I said, well, tell me what happened." And she said, while I was acting out, and this is another theme that happens, while I was acting out something, which was Chan trying to get out, and he felt the hand on the thing, she was standing there, her hair moved, and a hand touched her head and down her ear.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's
and how
why,
old was she?
She was like 12.
So she was not, there was no...
No, she had, first of all, she had no clue that would happen.
Yeah.
Secondly, it's not her thing.
Right.
And thirdly, that's why she got out of the house so quickly. When I opened the door, I said, okay, she's gone. So that was pretty astounding. And she was really shook up. And I talked to the parents, said, are you okay? And they said, yeah, no, this was just wild. We can't thank you enough. So that was my...
That's crazy.
But see, that corroborates Chan's story.
Yeah,
That's what's so great about it. So
what about, on my notes here, what about your tour with Christie? That was a wild day.
Yeah.
Hot summer LA day.
Okay, so when was that? Do you have a date on that?
Summer of 2017.
Wow. Okay. Summer 2017, I'm in the gatehouse. That was my office at that time. Gatehouse is down below on the south end of the property. You can see it. It's 501 Doheny Road. And look it up. Google it. You can Google map it. You'll see where it is. So I was there, and there's a knock at the door. And it was, I think, 104 that day. The hottest day I ever worked in 22 years. Knock at the door. I go to the door, and it's these two girls, probably about 20, are standing there. They're sweating profusely. And they go,
what clothes did they have on? They were very light clothing, right?
Well, yeah,
Summer?
relatively. It wasn't like, really thin, because they're from Norway. That's the point. I'm sorry, I didn't bring that up.
No.
They are from Norway. So they're used to cold weather. Well, they come to LA, to Beverly Hills, and it's 104. So they found an Airbnb by the Beverly Center.
And Beverly Center is, what do we fit? 2.5 miles.
Is that what it is?
It's 2.2 miles from Greystone.
Okay, 2.2 miles. They walked from the Beverly Center to Greystone in heels. I'm looking at them like, what's going on here? And they said, we just, this is Greystone? I can't, I know, I can't. I gave it a shot.
That's not
I gave it a shot.
right to do.
So, well, you know what I'm saying. They know what I'm talking about. But they just wanted to get in. I said, come on in.
Were they red? I mean, were they just...
Oh, man. They're from Norway.
Yeah.
And they were hammered. Come in. Air conditioning was on in our place. I sat them down. I got them some cold water and said, just sit for a minute. I was really worried about them because they were... Boy, that was
overheated.
Bad. Overheated, yeah. They could just drop dead, and I'd have to shove them out the front door. We can't have them inside the property.
Continue.
I'm sorry about that. Maybe they could. I don't know. So they cooled off, calmed down, and I said, "Well, tell me what's your story? We're from Norway, and we would like to get into the one of our things was to come to L.A. and go, and we heard about Greystone. We wanted to go in the mansion. Why? Well, because there's murders, and where's the restroom?" Is that what they said?
No, they didn't.
They didn't say that,
but
it was probably something like that. So I ended up saying, okay, I'll tell you what. I'm off in like 5 minutes. Hang, take it easy, and I'll get you inside the mansion. They were really excited. They cooled off, really excited. I drove them up to the mansion, went to Dan, Senior Ranger Dan Hernandez, my buddy. Oops, I'm not supposed to say the last name, but you didn't hear that.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I said to Dan, is it okay if I bring these two girls in from Norway? And he said, absolutely. I said, great. We started. 3 things happened with this tour. We're only going to talk about the grand entry. But little did I know that through the tour, I found out that Christie has the gift. Her friend Tanya does not. So Christie walks in, and literally, if you see, there's a front door, the glass door, you walk in, and you're at a landing, a small landing. And that's where we came in and stopped. And the first thing let's let her tell you.
Okay. All right.
Sorry about that.
I remember I wrote it on the blog, and everyone was like, what happened in that mansion? And I was like, okay, let me tell you from the beginning. So I remember it really well. And I remember Tanya was really excited about going in, and I was like, we don't disrespect the ghosts and the things we don't know. And I'm still like that because, I don't know, I've always felt something that I thought everyone else was feeling as well. So I think I kind of reacted a little bit different than Tanya was, because I felt so much energy when we went into the house. It felt like, I don't know what you call it in English, but it was like a wave coming to me when you opened the door, and I thought everyone felt it. So I was like, wow, and I felt like my hair was...
So she was feeling this, but didn't say anything, because she thought that to her, it's like, if this actually did happen, right? To her, it's like everybody feels the same thing.
Yeah, and I, through the one point of the tour, I said, hang on a minute, do you have the gift? And she said, well, I saw my grandmother after she died.
Okay.
I said, well, there's a hint.
There you go.
So, but I didn't know that at the time.
Right.
And well, let's let Chrisa continue.
Yeah, when it's wind in your hair,
Yeah, when it stands
Do
up.
you understand what I mean? And not stands up, but when it's wind and it's like in your hair. I can't really explain it, but that's the first feeling I got when you open the door and we stand in the hall. And then I remember you talked, and I don't even remember what you talked about, but I remember it was something pushing on me. It was like, it's so much energy that pushed me, and I felt so heavy and so tired at my feet and everything. And then you talked about that family, and then I felt someone kind of brushed away some hair and kind of put it back behind my ear. Do you remember I kind of like jumped a little bit when we were...
Yeah, I sure do.
And you asked me, like, what was it? And I was like, I don't know, nothing. I thought I was paranoid.
Well,
I still feel a little bit paranoid.
Oh, okay. Because when you walked in with Tanya and you stood at the entrance and I started talking, you looked at me, you like held your arms out and said, do you feel that?
Yeah.
And I was like, what? And you said, do you feel that? And I started telling the story about the ranger that was trying to close the door, and he felt his... Remember? And the ranger at the door, and also a woman that was there, and that was from Australia that I brought in, and she was standing there watching, and she had her hair moved. And when I said that, your hair moved.
Yeah.
And you jumped back, right? And you jumped back and went, oh my God. And I went, what? And my hair just moved. And I thought, well, are you feeling that because I just told that story, or did something happen to you? And then Tanya said, do that to me. And I said, I'm not doing anything. I didn't do anything. And you looked at me. You were scared, actually. It looked like you were kind of frightened of that took place.
Yeah, I was terrified.
I have to tell you that all through this tour with Chrisa and Tanya kept thinking like I was doing this.
Right.
So she kept saying, do that to me. I want to do that. I go, no, I'm not doing anything. And that's why I kept going, something's up here. Because Chris is going through all these things. Tanya and I are just watching, going like, what are you talking about? And Tanya kept saying, I want to do that. And eventually she was, it's another story. I'm sorry. It's another story.
What you're going on to
There's
somewhere
so
else.
many.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay.
Because I've always been like that, like never never talk about or do anything about something you don't know anything about, if you know what I mean. It sounds weird, but I've always been like, when my friends, if I say, oh, did you hear that? And they're like, no, you're so weird, you're so paranoid. And I'm like, no, really, I heard something. And they're like, no, it's nothing. And then they start to like joke around, and I was like, I've always been like that. Like, don't joke about it because you don't know what it is.
That's great.
Isn't that awesome?
Wow. This is the first time I've heard these, because when we did the book, all I got was you had gone through these interviews and given me the sections of the transcribed
the highlighted parts of this transcription
to get into the book and this and that. So when I can hear them, it's really amazing. It's so real. It makes me a little less skeptical.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
But that's the crazy thing about all this, is that when you find people that have the gift, that things are happening to them at a kind of a regular basis. It's not like hardly ever. It happens. It happens. And Chrisa had the gift, and I had no clue.
Right. It's amazing. It's good. That's a great story.
Yeah. She's awesome. All
right. Yeah. Do you want to go at what we're going to normally do?
Yeah.
Wrap up the show.
Okay.
What we normally do at the end of each show, or which we will do, since this is episode 1, is we will play a sound that Clete, he had recorders in there for years and would listen to them when he's writing during the day, listen to the recordings, which were usually just blank, but he would hear all kinds of things. So we're going to try to have a sound every week.
A sound bite or something of something
for every episode
that I captured, and I put my recorder in hundreds of times in this mansion. Imagine if you're into the paranormal and you have access to this amazing
for
building.
22 years.
Yeah, amazing building. And then suddenly it became myself and some of the other rangers. They go, hey, I'll put the recorder in tonight. I go, awesome. So they would do that, and then we'd take those recordings and I would just sit with them, and not during work.
No, of course not.
After hours, I'd come home and I put the headphones on and I just listen in real time. And by the way, as we go through all these stories, I was going to say shows, all these stories, there were interviews I did where voices came through. Spirit voices came through, and we'll play those for you. And it's astounding and it's real. And I had no idea. I didn't hear them at the time.
That is incredible.
Yeah. So
I've heard.
Okay, so how can you be a skeptic on that?
We'll see. See how it goes.
All right, whatever. All right. Okay, so we're going to play a sound. This is our first sound, first show, and we'll play it for you, and then we can chat about it if you want.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Isn't that wild?
Now they don't know. It sounds like something just falling off a table.
Right.
Where was this? What time of night, day?
Okay. Your attitude is horrible.
I know,
right
it's
now.
very bad.
Okay. What that was, I'm quite sure, was a design show. So we did design shows for about 10 years in a row. And people would come in, they buy a room, in essence, like if it was Lux Magazine or whatever, their designers would come in and they would buy a room, design that room, and that would be like in Pasadena, California, we have a show house. So people would come and look at, and get inside the mansion, number one, ask me if it's haunted, and what else would they ask me?
About the bathrooms.
They wanted to know where the restrooms were. So once that was taken care of, then they'd walk through the house and they'd see all these, and there were some amazing design shows. So at night, that's when I'd put my recorder, because I knew things always happen during the design show. So I left my recorder one night. That happened. It sounds like almost like a metal bottle falling.
It does.
And if we're going to play it again, and it sounds like it's hitting the wooden floor, which means it wasn't downstairs. It had to be upstairs. There's a wooden floor upstairs.
No, it's definitely a wooden floor.
Yeah, because marble downstairs, wooden upstairs. So let's listen to it one more time.
Yeah, that's not on the marble.
Yeah. So, and you go like, well, couldn't they just find out what that was? When people come in at the end of the night or the next morning, if things are moved around, whatever, they just fix them and they go in,
right.
or they have, a lot of times they'd have their assistants go in and get the place ready before they showed up. So they wouldn't know from that, oh, this must have fallen or whatever. But that was probably late all these recordings are late, like, probably between 11 and 4. So nobody's inside the mansion.
Right.
If it was a design show, there were they'd have security.
Security outside.
Outside, not inside. And so that's what tripped me out when I would hear these sounds, because I'd just be sitting there listening, and I hear and go, good Lord. And I'd look at the time, because I'd measure it out, and I go, God, 3:40 in the morning that happened.
Wow. I'm going to just hear it one more time.
Okay. Trippy, huh?
That's bizarre.
I love that. I love that sound. So we'll be doing this each show just for fun. I just think it's fun.
So make sure that you like, subscribe, ring the bell, whatever it is to follow us.
What do we do? What is that?
That you can keep up with the episodes.
Yeah.
And if you have any comments about the show, let us know. Put them below in comments. We're always checking.
Yeah.
And if you have anything that you would rather be private, don't want to go through the public, just go ahead and you'll find us on ghostsofgreystone.com. You can send us a message through that.
Yeah. And
if you've had a personal experience.
Yeah, that's what I want to say. If you've had an experience, I want to know, man.
Yeah.
I want to know.
Let us know.
Yeah, and maybe you'll be on the show. Maybe we'll put a phone call in. I'm thinking of doing another book, possibly. So,
book 2, huh?
Yeah,
huh?
I'm thinking about it.
Well, we've got a lot of stories already.
Yeah.
That aren't in this book.
We have things that have happened that you don't know,
off the charts,
that are not going to. Obviously, they're not.
But there's some pretty crazy ones in the book, anyway. But
yeah, the book's nuts. This second book, if we do it, will be just as crazy. But I can't thank you enough for actually taking the time to be with Chris and myself, and hopefully you enjoyed this. This is brand new to us. We just thought, let's just tell the stories.
It's fun. What's going to be the next episode? You got Grand Hall and Card Room coming up.
Oh man. There are some apparitions in the Grand Hall. I know that from Brooke. What else is in the Grand Hall?
Gunshots?
It's true. There are gunshots. No. You'll hear I'm telling you, it's true. You'll hear gunshots, apparitions, and I don't know what else.
I haven't built that show yet. I got to hear that.
Okay, we don't even know yet, but it'll be fantastic. It'll be fun. So
and thank you very much for joining, and we'll see you in a week.
Yeah. So let me just say to you, and you have to please remember this. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it isn't there. See you next show.
100 horses in 5 freight trains couldn't drag me into that early grave. I've cashed in the mistakes I've made, while God rode shotgun from 1,000,000 miles away. I don't wake in sorrow, I don't walk in shame, I don't deal in hearsay, I don't dwell in blame. Sometimes it's best to forget what I know and what they say, but this ain't that time, and this ain't that day. With the heart of a gypsy and the eyes of a child, I walk these fields and let my love grow wild. Filled with fever, I dare my desire. Don't fear the flame, I walk through the fire. I don't wake in sorrow, I don't walk in shame, I don't deal in hearsay, I don't dwell in blame. Sometimes it's best to forget what I know and what they say, but this ain't that time, and this ain't that day. I'll keep riding till the trail grows cold, where the hillsides burn amber and smoke. The sheep and the shepherd are lost on different roads. Blinded by hate, blinded by hope. I don't wake in sorrow, I don't walk in shame. I don't deal in hearsay, I don't dwell in blame. Sometimes it's best to forget what I know and what they say. But this ain't that time. And this ain't that time. I don't wake in sorrow, I don't walk in shame. I don't deal in hearsay, I don't dwell in blame. Sometimes it's best to forget what I know and what they say. But this ain't that time. No, this ain't that time. And this ain't